Hi, this is Billie Jean King.
This is Marion Bartoli.
This is Bianca Andreescu.
I'm Mats Wilander.
This is Mary Carrillo.
This is Pam Shriver.
This is Yannick Noah, and you're listening to the Tennis Podcast.
Well, hello and welcome to the Tennis Podcast on day 9 of Roland Garros 2025. We're back in our usual spot. Justine Henin has not joined us this evening, but it's actually lovely and quiet. It's 9:30. Jannik Sinner is destroying Andrei Rublev on Chatrier as we speak. The day session crowds have mostly dispersed and we sort of got this little area to ourselves for once, David. Not that it wasn't nice being in the company of Justine Henin.
No, we kind of needed to have slightly sharp elbows in previous editions of the recordings in order to get our space. Not against Justine Henin, you understand. We were very much letting her do whatever she likes in this particular area. But no, it is nice because it has been such a full, vibrant, exciting day. And there's still some more to come, but it is nice and hushed at the moment. Lovely out here.
David fending off the Daily Express headlines before they before they have a chance to come to pass. Matt, how are you doing?
Very well, thank you. Yes, David mentioned it being a vibrant day, and I think what stuck out to me is that the vibes have come from slightly unexpected places. And I say slightly, and I mean very. Certainly for one of the vibes. And, maybe we should have seen Alexander Bublik coming.
Well, maybe, but we didn't.
We didn't.
World number 62, Alexander Bublik. Look, he has been inside the world's top 20. He was inside the world's top 20 a year ago, but he's down at 62 at the moment. He has not been a factor on clay in years gone by at all. But today, he put on, I think, the best 90 minutes of tennis I have ever seen from any individual person. To beat Jack Draper, the 5th seed, 5-7, 6-3, 6-2, 6-4. I'm at a bit of a loss for words for what Alexander Bublik did out there. He is the most, look, when he's on, and he is very rarely on for as long a period as he was today. He's very well known for his talent, but being unable to string it together for longer than about 6 games. Today, for 90 minutes, I would say, he was the most electrifying mélange of power and touch I've ever seen. I don't think he's going to do it in the next round. I don't think I'll ever see that again from Alexander Bublik. But for a while there on Longlen, it was an absolute dream.
Well, I'll tell you what. I saw it against Alex de Minaur earlier in this tournament when I'd started watching that match when he was mounting his comeback from 2-0 down. And what really struck me that day was de Minaur in his press conference saying, I could have done more. I should have won that match. And I remember thinking, you're being really hard on yourself because, look, maybe he could have done it. It was a slightly different situation because he was 2 sets up, whereas Draper was never that close to winning today. So it probably felt even more painful for de Minaur. But the tennis that he produced in those 3 sets against de Minaur were reminiscent of the 3 he produced today against Draper. Just completely took your breath away. The audacity to what he's trying, the variety that he's got, the power that he's got, just was absolutely astonishing. My dad texted me afterwards and said Draper was ambushed. And I thought that was a really good description because it was kind of like Draper couldn't do a lot. Just the most incredible performance from Bublik, and the way the crowd started getting into it and adopting him as kind of one of their own, and the ovation he got at the end sort of told you everything about how much they'd enjoyed that performance. And it just was the perfect singles send-off to Longlen for this tournament.
It was like he'd been cast in the role of give a performance that aptly sends out that court, that wonderful court for singles action for 2025. And yeah, he accepted the role and put in an Oscar-winning performance. I mean, his drop shot today was I mean, I don't have words. His forehand drop shot, the way it skids through, and every time he hit one, I thought, well, that's not clearing the net. And I think he might have missed one, maybe. But basically, they cleared the net by a millimetre every time and just completely befuddled Jack Draper. His eggs were so firmly scrambled, and ambush is exactly the right word, because Jack Draper was leading a set and a break. It looked like exactly the kind of match that Jack Draper's been playing for a while now, where, you know, he's in a tussle, but he looks up for the fight, and he hangs in there, and he's eventually able to stamp his authority. And, well, Alexander Bublik had other ideas. It was absolutely unreal. The game he played, David, to break at the start of the fourth set.
Which ultimately was the difference, because that was the only break in the set.
Right. And Alexander Bublik told you in press after the match that if he hadn't won the game to serve out the match, then he would have tanked. He said, I'm a big believer in just having one chance. David, you asked him about whether he gets nervous on a tennis court, and that was a really good question. He didn't answer that question. He gave a really good answer to some other phantom question. But he said, I'm a big believer in only having one chance, and I knew that game was my chance. He said, if I got broken serving for it at 5-4, I would definitely have lost 7-5, 6-2.
His drop shots are like hummingbirds. They just sort of hang there and then suddenly drift over the net and are winners. He hit around 30 of them in the match today. I mean, it's just a quite astonishing stat. It's daredevil tennis, but the reason I asked him whether he gets nervous is because it doesn't feel as though he's being gutsy to play these audacious shots. He just thinks, well, that's my only chance of winning. That's what I'm going to do. If I'm in a stressful situation, I'm going to hit a 225 kilometre an hour first serve. That's, you know, around 100, getting up to 140 miles an hour. And if that doesn't go in, I'm going to do another one. It's his way of just not allowing his opponent to have any say whatsoever. And that was the big feature of Draper's press conference. A bit like Alex de Minaur, he was disappointed in his own performance. He felt there should have been more. He said it wasn't terrible, but I felt like I should have been able to do more. But I think that they are underestimating just how little chance they get to be themselves on a tennis court when Alexander Bublik is around and playing like that, because he's going to do stuff that just doesn't make any sense for a normal tennis player. The power he's got off both wings and serve is astonishing, and then to suddenly mix in that drop shot. It was such a buzz. We were on the front row there of the press seats, and you know there's a lot at stake for the media in Jack Draper. We're British journalists. We have an international audience, and a Sinner Draper match, for instance, would be a big thing to get into. But honestly, I like Jack Draper, but I didn't care. In the moment, I just felt so uplifted by the performance this guy was putting in and the way the crowd reacted. I mean, it was as if he was French.
I did wonder if they were going to break out the Marseillaise for a Kazakh, albeit a Monte Carlo resident. I thought that might be their tenuous link. I think he is a French speaker, isn't he? But yeah, not quite. But he did get. I mean, throughout the match, he got a rousing reception, but throughout the interview as well, which was an incredible moment on the court where he just like he did with the match, he took control of the interview, didn't he? Alex Gretcher basically asked one question, and Bublik kind of implied, I'll take it from here, and told the crowd, this is the best moment of my life. Said he was holding back tears. Well, not even really holding them back. He was crying, wasn't he, out there on the court? And yeah, they could not stop chanting for him.
Yeah, it was really special, because those are the sorts of reactions that usually are reserved for a home player, as you say. And just to go back to that game that you mentioned before, you know, Jack Draper, he said in his press conference he was disappointed with his third set, didn't he? He said he let himself down in that third set.
And that was the one where he showed the most frustration. There was a moment where he was 3-1 down, he was serving 1-3, and he went to the baseline to clean the dirt off the baseline as players do with his foot, and he ended up violently kicking his foot into the dirt in a real, like, wow, you just don't see that from Jack Draper anymore these days. He's such a professional, and he ended up serving a double fault in the second point of that game, and Bublik, who was just in front of me at the time, turned and winked to his box. It wasn't just I'm playing great tennis, it was I've got him.
Right.
I am in his head.
Wow. So then he goes off court at the end of that third set, which, given what you've just described there, seems absolutely the right thing to do. He needed a Shriver reset. So he comes out back onto court at the start of the fourth set. And at this point, I'm definitely thinking Jack Draper's in big trouble here because of how well Bublik's playing. But I'm also thinking Bublik can still go off here. Like, Draper is still in this match. But then Bublik just plays the most astonishing return game. A backhand winner down the line, a forehand passing shot cross court, a backhand drop shot winner, and a clean winner off for first serve. And there was literally nothing that Jack Draper could do about it. It was laugh out loud brilliant from Bublik. And then the other thing that I think makes him both absolutely thrilling to watch and I think difficult to play is the speed of it. He is so quick between points. It's relentless. It's frantic. And like when he's bad, that's a problem for him because it's like he's not giving any thought to what he's doing in the rallies. And I've seen Bublik play like that, and it looks like he's tanking because it's just error after error. And maybe sometimes he is tanking, as he admitted that he probably would have done in that fifth set had he not served it out. But when it's clicking and he's in a groove and in a rhythm, that speed of play that he's got is exhilarating. Like, you've not got a moment to really take it in and process it, and suddenly, it's another drop shot. It's another huge second serve. And he was killing Draper with that wide serve on the deuce. Like, it was amazing to witness someone play like that. Just, as you said, for an hour and a half, just barely put a foot wrong. And Draper did get a half chance to get back into the match. Probably a chance, really. 2 break points at 15-40.
A chance, because Bublik told us he would have tanked.
Yeah, and he had 2 forehands in both of those points, and he hit one long and he completely shanked one long on the next point, and that was it. That was his moment right there. But it's hard to say that he could have done much more because Bublik was just throwing all of this stuff at him.
And I don't believe Bublik when he says I would have, that was my only... I don't believe it. He was playing so well. I don't necessarily think the comeback would have been beyond Draper. If he'd have got that break back and for 5-all, I think that would have made it very interesting. But
maybe not tanked. Maybe we're exaggerating for comic effect with tanked, but I do think he'd have lost if he hadn't served it out there. I think maybe this is a new Alexander Bublik, but there's quite a lot of Alexander Bublik data out there to back up his claim that he would have ended up losing. But look, it could be a new Bublik.
It just seemed to me that the same thing was happening as happened against De Minaur. He was rolling, and he wasn't going to change the way he was playing. He was just going to keep on rolling that arm over and smashing the ball down and playing drop shots when he felt like it. And I don't know whether it's repeatable in other matches, but on this day, Draper should have made more of those 2 break points because he did have forehands that were the type that he would want.
Yeah.
And I think he's got a really good forehand, but he's tightly wound, and that was a very tense situation, and he tried to hit so hard and with so much topspin. I mean, the top-edged second one, that is somebody who is just feeling the tension of the opponent and the pressure he's been put under, and he's trying to retaliate, and he actually gave it to bigger heave.
So then we have this incredible emotional moment with Alexander Bublik on the court where he's bearing himself sort of and in all his vulnerability before the Longlen crowd and crying out there saying it's the best moment of my life. And, you know, this is the guy that has made some pretty public statements in the past about how tennis is just a career to him, and he takes a very mercenary approach, and it's all about prize money, you know, it's just a job. And he's also talked about seeking out a work-life balance, hasn't he? Not wanting to, he puts it, put his body on the line the way so many others do, you know, win at any cost. He's made it clear he's not prepared to win at any cost. He would like to win. So then, you know, we're really anticipating his press conference, aren't we? We're like, wow, can't wait to spend some time with this Alexander Bublik. And it was an interesting press conference, but it wasn't the same emotion we saw on the court by any means. I mean, that guy is terrifying. I had a question to ask, and I ended up bottling it because I was genuinely afraid of him.
What do you mean there? Because he's polite in the press conference,
absolutely,
isn't he?
But I felt like he could take me down with his directness in a very polite but savage way that I just didn't feel emotionally ready for in that moment.
He's very quick, isn't he? He's got you've barely finished the questions, a bit like his tennis, and he's percolated an answer, and it's actually not necessarily the answer to your question. It's something that he's going to say, and you're going to get it.
Yeah. I mean, the answer he gave about, you know, tennis is 50% of his life and the rest of his life is 50%, no more. Like, that is the balance. And he said, I'm not going to play through a knee injury. I want to be able to walk when I'm 40. I mean, actually, all of that, I was nodding along. I was like, gosh, this actually sounds really like a healthy approach. But I think he was also kind of getting at it like, yes, he works incredibly. Like he said, don't mistake what I'm saying for thinking that I just rely purely on my talent. He said, I work hard. I do work hard. But I think there was also a little point in there about he is able to still be as good as he is because he knows he is naturally gifted as well. You know, he said, like, not everyone would be able to hit serves at that speed that I can hit. You know, he knows that he can work this amount to get this amount out of it. It's all quite sort of calculated, I think. His approach to sport and to life, even though he seems like this incredibly sort of free spirit. I think people have an image of Alexander Bublik as, oh, he's a bit crazy and he doesn't care. But actually, I think he is quite sort of strategic about it. And yet there is this looseness to his tennis. It's a bit of a contradiction there. But yeah, I find him fascinating, but I'm also a bit scared of him.
We don't officially know who he'll play in the next round yet, but Jannik Sinner is 6-1, 6-3, 40-15 up on Andrei Rublev, so I'm sure you'll be on the edge of your seats for part 3 when we bring you the news of who Bublik will be playing in the quarterfinals. What we do know is that Alexander Zverev will meet Novak Djokovic in the quarterfinals in 2 days' time. Zverev winning by retirement, Griekspoor retiring, trailing 6-4, 3-love. He had spent 3.5 hours on court, hadn't he, a couple of days ago, getting the better of Ethan Quinn in the previous round. So Zverev fresh as a daisy for his quarterfinal, which I think made it feel extremely important that Novak Djokovic do an efficient job against Cam Norrie today. 6-2, 6-3, 6-2. I don't think the result was ever in doubt, but it felt like there was more at stake than just the result. He needed to not lose focus or drop a set. He needed to be dialed in and just get this job done. Yeah,
I got the sense that he knew that. Going onto the court, he knew that he needed to be bang on it. And I think, generally speaking, at this tournament, he's given off that vibe because he knows he's 38 years of age now. He knows his body has broken down on him. And if he wants to win this title or if he wants to win Wimbledon, he needs to stay not only fit, but fresh and not expend too much energy. And I think that's when you get your best Novak Djokovic, because he can be a little indulgent and allow himself to be pissed off or to be frustrated or feel pain or whatever it might be, and feel a bit sorry for himself in certain situations. And I think in those, that only happens when he's got plenty of time or loads and loads left in the tank, and he's kind of allowing it to happen. When there's the deadline, when there's the stress, when there's I've got to win Olympic gold now or I never will. I mean, he was basically unbeatable that day. And look, he hasn't had to get to anything like that level today, and yet there were a couple of really tense games against Cameron Norrie in that second set. He won the first really easily, and then around the 3-all mark, Norrie has several break points and doesn't take them. Djokovic holds, then Djokovic has a long attempt at breaking Norrie and does it. And then that's the match right there, and he just dissected Norrie very, very efficiently. Came into the press conference, looks really fresh, looks really ready, and I mean that could be one heck of a match between those two.
Yeah, look, stylistically, it's not my favourite type of match.
There's a tussle,
but I absolutely agree. I think it's going to be that. I do. Like, I know Djokovic was injured, wasn't he, when they played in Melbourne, and he was hanging on in that first set, but it was an incredibly long first set. And yeah, look, I think I was very impressed with Djokovic's forehand today. That shot was absolutely working for him and just absolutely took Norrie apart in that third set with it. He's got blisters. He's got a few blister problems. Djokovic, he's had treatment in consecutive matches now, but
on his feet.
Yeah, on his feet, which, you know, I don't remember really Djokovic having that many blister problems through his career. I could be wrong, but it's not something I really associate with him. So it's odd that it has sort of shown up now.
Yeah, I mean, we're 20 years into his career, and I had my first thought I've ever had today about the length of Novak Djokovic's toes. Like, I don't think I've seen much of Djokovic's feet before, because I don't think he's had blister problems before. He's got really long toes.
Maybe that's the secret.
But yeah, he's got strapping that sort of extends. It's like a sort of hammock for his toes. It's quite extensive.
Yeah, so anyway, this chat has gone in a direction I wasn't expecting.
I was trying to back up your point.
I appreciate it. But yeah, look, I think Djokovic is going to have to use all the parts of his game to beat Zverev. I don't think he can out-hit him for...
You don't want to just go toe-to-toe,
You don't want to do that. Like, he can, in parts, he can out-hit him, but he's also going to want to use his drop shot and, you know, serve with great precision to set up shot. You know, there's going to be a lot of things on display that he's going to have to do well. But I am backing him in that match.
Because Novak Djokovic won't choke against Alexander Zverev. Zverev has an uncanny ability to make players choke against him. I don't know how he does it, because so often he seems there for the taking and players just aren't able to take him out, to get over the line, particularly at Grand Slams. And I don't think he will be able to do that against Novak Djokovic. Djokovic doesn't choke. I know the nerve is one of the things that goes as you age, but I do back Djokovic's nerve. I think if Zverev comes out hitting and playing aggressive, confident tennis, he can out-hit Novak Djokovic potentially, but I don't think he has the baked-in confidence to do that. I know he's improved so much as this tournament has gone on, but I still think he's going to revert to type in that match, and Djokovic won't crumble.
Yeah, I'm fascinated, because I've seen a lot of Zverev over the last few months play a good first set, get himself in position, and then just suddenly the confidence and the form evaporates. I think he is playing well now. He hasn't been that tested, but it was a good win over Kaboli. Today was a real gift, because Greek Sport had him two breaks up in the fifth set a year ago, and it was nothing like that today. Obviously, so no issues there. But I think that's the important point: is that Djokovic is the best closer we've ever seen. This guy gets into position in a Grand Slam and he finishes the deal. And you know, he might have got outplayed by Carlos Alcaraz in a couple of finals at Wimbledon, but it doesn't happen very often. And I just think that Zverev's only chance is either to just be blazing the ball and hitting a lot of winners, or keeping it really close and edging a point here or there. But in that type of battle, if Djokovic is on it, I back Djokovic. But I actually think in any case, more likely scenario is that Djokovic's variety just ties Zverev up in knots, on clay particularly, because he can use the drop shot, he can make things happen in a way that it's more difficult to make them happen on a hard court.
Just incidentally, that was Djokovic's 16th Roland Garros quarterfinals he's now reached in a row. Like, this is the slam where he's actually most consistent in terms of reaching the latter stages. Yes, he's lost here a ton to Rafael Nadal, but he is so good on clay. He really is. By the time he gets to Roland Garros, it's the surface that takes him the longest. He always talks about that, but he's so good here. I think for Zverev, psychologically, I think actually he maybe finds it easier to play the brand of tennis he should play against Djokovic. I think there's something about when he plays a Sinner or an Alcaraz, I think in some ways he's threatened by them, isn't he? Because they're doing what he thinks he should be doing in terms of winning the majors and being the next guy after the big three. And there's something about when he plays them in big matches that he does really retreat and revert to type. Not he has beaten Alcaraz, but he's caught Alcaraz on some days when he's not been at his best, I would say. But I don't know, against Djokovic, I think I ultimately agree that in the absolutely biggest moments, I'm backing Novak Djokovic, but I do also think Zverev will probably play quite well in this match. It's just different for him against Djokovic than it is against Sinner and Alcaraz, and it is when he's the big favourite in a match against like a Greek Spor or a Cerundolo, and people we've seen him lose to over the last year or so. So I don't know if I'm making sense there, but just something about, I think just he was comfortable kind of in Novak Djokovic's company.
Well, that is true, because they're friends and he hangs around him a lot, so I think that probably does help in that regard. There's not quite the tension there, the creative tension that he has against the other two. I do find their previous, it's a number of years ago, 6 years ago, but it was straight sets for Djokovic here when they played. So I don't know how much to read into that, but I don't think it's totally insignificant.
Just before we move on, a word for Cam Norrie, who heard about the nose strip craze and said, "I see you and I raise you."
Yeah, he looked ridiculous, didn't he?
What was it?
Was it sun cream?
I think it was fluid. I don't think it was a physical thing, like a paste.
I mean, I've seen him definitely come onto court.
Yes, he does the cricketer thing.
But this was
a full stripe. It was like he'd done the Nike kit on his face. It was absurd. But anyway, good effort from him to reach the fourth round.
There was one other thing from that match I wanted to mention, that there was a line judge on the court in a wheelchair, and this was a story that actually was reported on last year by the BBC. It completely passed me by, I have to say. Lucas Ferron, who was a line judge here for the women's final in 2018. This is all from Jonathan Girecco's piece on the BBC website last year. And in the men's final in 2021, he was attacked in the street in 2022, completely unprovoked attack, was left in a coma, had to go to a rehabilitation unit for over a year, and he's made a recovery to be able to come back to being a line judge. He has a mic because his speech is impaired as a result of the attack as well, so his calls need to be amplified. But I just found it really quite moving, actually, that he's been back being a line judge the last 2 years here at Roland Garros. He's the first ever wheelchair user line judge on court Philippe Chatrier, and he's done it. He has been on Philippe Chatrier this tournament already. I hadn't seen those matches, but I noticed him today, and just thought it was worth mentioning. It was really good report by the BBC last year.
That's incredible. What a way to end part one. We'll be back in part two to talk about the women and Lois Boisson. But before we do that, folks, as you know, we love all of the Grand Slams equally. We always say that our favourite slam is the one that we're at. But even though we're sitting here in lovely Paris having a lovely time, I think we can all admit that there's something pretty special about being in Melbourne in January.
Oh, just a bit. I mean, it is quite nice to get out of the snow in Solihull and go over to Melbourne.
It feels like cheating at life a little bit, doesn't it? It does feel like entering a cheat code, getting to go to Australia in January. And wait for it, next year's Australian Open is going to be extra special because it's the first stop of Steve Fogel's 50th year celebration tour. Thought you'd go with me more there. It's
getting used to it.
It's going to be like the Eras Tour, but for fans of tennis travel. And to celebrate this, Steve Fogels are offering a 5% discount to listeners on all available 2026 AO travel packages. They've got some really awesome stuff on offer. I suggest you check it out at tours4tennis.com/podcast. That's tours, the number 4tennis.com/podcast. There are tennis packages. There are also VIP tour packages where you can upgrade your trip to experience the tennis and get a taste of Australia outside the tennis. You can go to Sydney, you can go to Cairns, Melbourne, Adelaide, Kangaroo Island, all sorts of different lengths of stay and types of stay as well, depending on how far you want to push out the boat. So if that sounds good, head to tours4tennis.com/podcast. The code to unlock that discount is podcast, PODCAST, and that's valid until June the 30th, 2025 on all AO travel packages for 2026 offered by Steve Fogel's International Tennis Tours. We'll see you down under. Welcome back to part two of the Tennis Podcast, where it is time, folks, to talk about Lois Boisson. Don't say your card wasn't marked. I told you after her epic victory over Elsa Giacomo in the last round that Lois Boisson was a good watch. But even I was shocked to see her defeat Jessica Pegula 3-6, 6-4, 6-4 on court Philippe Chatrier earlier in one of the moments of certainly the tournament, maybe Roland Garros in recent years. David, you were up there. It was special. It was
exhilarating. She had the place in the palm of her hand. She had the press box in the palm of her hand. I was sat next to one chap who was quietly punching the air, as the winners were being hit by her. And I just loved the way she goes about it. She's such a creative player. She's such a sort of quiet player in the way she plays her stroke. She's not just bashing the ball around. She's stroking it into different parts of the court, basically because I think that is her game. I don't think that she's able to play in the more contemporary way that most players do. And Jessica Pegula did not really know what to do about it. I mean, she played well, I thought, to stay with her, and she sort of got back on serve in the third set. I did think at times, I think this, in the end, Pegula probably will win this. Just the experience and the pedigree and everything else. She's such a steady player. The fact that Boisson won anyway, won with sort of some of these audacious lobs and clever sliced backhands, floating the ball around. I mean, it made you hold your breath, because she's hitting sliced backhands, you don't know whether they're landing in or not. And you could feel these intakes of breath all around you, 15,000 people watching her. And then when she'd explode into a winner, the place would just erupt. And she has breathed new life back into this tournament, because it has been a tough place for the French the last couple of years. They have not had a huge amount to celebrate. Finally, Artefis had his big moment, and then the guy's got a stress fracture to his back and he can't play. He's out for months, probably. And here we have a player that nobody expected anything of. Even she. I asked her in the press conference, if I'd have told you this would happen a couple of weeks ago, what are you saying? And she says, I would not have thought this would happen. No way at all. She was very cool, calm and collected in the press conference. I think it may be a little bit baffled as to why there were so many people in the room. It's new to her. But she was fantastic. And I love that there's a story like this to go with all the big names.
There was quite a revealing answer, I thought, from Jessica Pegula in her press conference afterwards when she was asked by Matt Futterman, who is sitting next to me, about how difficult it is playing somebody so low ranked and has such little tour experience, where there's very little data and very little footage available of your opponent to do the research ahead of the match. You know, there's not much on YouTube of Lois Boisson, and Pegula said actually that wasn't an issue. We felt like we got enough footage. I felt like I wasn't surprised by how she played today. I felt well prepared for it. There weren't any surprises for me. She said what I was surprised by, what I didn't know going into the match, was how she would handle the big moments. And it kind of backed up my impression watching the match, was that, and I know this is harsh, but I think Jessica Pegula was expecting Lois Boisson to choke or tighten up to a greater degree than she did.
Yeah,
and
I was expecting that.
And she didn't. Like, I do think, this is harsh because, as always, there's a counter argument of make them play, get the ball back, get the ball in court, don't give them anything, ask them the questions. But I think she could have done more. She offered that up on a platter for Lois Boisson and asked her the question, and fair play to Boisson, she had the answers.
Yeah, I think she was completely caught between those things, wasn't she? Like, she did want to make Boisson play, but also I think about halfway through the match she completely lost trust in her own game to go after the ball. So she actually ended up really tight herself, Pegula, and that was a nightmare against the type of ball that you get from Boisson, because she's got those ground strokes that are completely different from each other. Her forehand is heavy, but also with a huge amount of net clearance. It's topspin moon balls, but her backhand is essentially either she loops it with basically nothing on it at all, or she slices it with kind of nothing on it at all. It does sit there, but Pegula wasn't accelerating on her shots. She was tight, I think, and it just became a sort of trap match for Pegula, an absolute nightmare. It looked like she was hating it. And like, Boisson was really, like, I found her so entertaining to watch, that variety, that throwback nature of her game, that, you know, it's just a sort of game that you don't really see very often, and you only had to look at the expressions on people's faces, either in the press box or in the crowd, you know, very near the press box. They were loving it. They were so into this, the chants of her name. But by the end, I just found the whole thing extremely funny, because there was Pegula was trying to get the break back in that final game. She had 4 break-back points in that final game with Boisson serving it out. And at one point, she played a lovely point, Pegula. Really, like, it was probably the best point she played in a while. She hit a wonderful cross-court angled forehand. And Boisson mishit a drop shot, and it went for a winner. And it's just like, unfortunately, Jessica, like, you are not going to win this match if Boisson is pulling out those sorts of shots. Like, I think it was a total fluke, but it ended up being this amazing winner. People were just laughing all around us. Pegula then had a backhand pass that she should have made off a very odd shot choice from Boisson. She was on top of the net, and she attempted a Musetti-style drop shot smash, except she got it all wrong. She sort of served it up for Pegula to slide into and hit a winner, and she netted it. there was just sort of this comedic element to those closing stages of the match, but it was enthralling.
She heard you say, when it reaches the middle point of a slam, you just need funny. Matt Roberts needs funny.
Yeah. The thing is, though, I felt for Pegula because it looked like torture for her. Like, I really do think that she was having a terrible time.
I think the whole tournament needed something today. When we came in, not much was going on, and not much was expected to really happen today, I don't feel. And suddenly, Boisson happened, and nobody cared about anything anymore.
Yeah. I needed it because there's been a bad development in my trouser situation.
Really bad, actually.
Yeah.
They've gone missing.
Yeah. I neither have the money that I spent on the trousers nor the trousers.
Bad situation.
I can't believe you spent the morning of a Grand Slam at the post office. Like, that is bad.
Yeah, it's bad enough in itself, but to come away with no trousers is dreadful. Anyway, once again, I'm going to repeat the appeal. If anyone's seen a Cezanne package full of trousers
in the Bilancourt area,
please do let us know, because the weather is about to take a turn for the worse as well.
Oh, is it? Oh, great.
I think, and I don't want to pour a load of cold water on the French Boisson hype.
You better not.
Because look, I was wrapped up in it. There was a brief moment where they started singing the Marseillaise before the umpire shut it down. But, it was absolute scenes out there. It was amazing. I think Andreeva is going to take her apart.
Yeah, I do too.
She really should do.
I just don't think that game, I think it was a very... I think if Pegula played her again on, just on the tour... I think Pegula beats her easily.
Yeah.
I think it was very, scenario-based today. And look, maybe we get that again on Chatrier, full house, French player going for the semis. Maybe that can ruffle Andreeva, but I don't know. I just think the quality gap's going to be too big, and she's going to deal with those off-pace balls. She's got more dexterity in that sense than Pegula, I think.
Pegula's never played a French player here.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And she was aware of that.
I did think that, having thought about Boisson's game today, having beaten Daria Kasatkina is not the worst dress rehearsal.
Right.
In terms of not huge power.
Generating your own pace. And, 6-3-7-5 for Andreeva over Kasatkina today, who she called her sister.
Oh.
Which is lovely. She's playing damn well, isn't she, Andreeva?
Yeah, and she's growing into the tournament, which is, I think, what you want to be doing. That's what the best players do. They don't always play out of the mind at the start of tournaments. They want to be getting better and peaking towards the end. And she's doing that within matches. Every match she's playing, she seems to start quite slowly and either be neck and neck or a breakdown, and then she just takes over. Yeah, years ago, I remember Daria Kasatkina coming on the scene, and she was the kind of Andreeva of her day. You're looking at 10 years ago nearly now, and she was exciting and different to watch, but there was never the sort of bite to her game that Andreeva's got. And as Andreeva has grown physically, she's a formidable player. It's not just nice to look at now. It's lethal. But the other thing she added to her game today, there were 2 or 3 rallies where she won points out of nowhere with retrieving, with just how is she even getting rackets on these balls? But she's getting them back in the court, and she scrambled the brain of Kasatkina out there today. Yeah,
if you want to sort of see the absolute best of Andreeva, just put on the last 4 games of this match, because Kasatkina had a set point in the second set. She led it 5-3, but the tennis Andreeva played down the stretch there, a lovely mix of getting on the front foot and changing the dynamic of a rally with a backhand down the line, or what Dave is describing there, just this incredible defence and anticipation. And again, I'll use that word dexterity, because it's all very well anticipating the shot, that she was then in an awkward position and had to get it back, and she had the hand skills to be able to do that. I think Kasatkina probably should have finished some of those points off, but and Andreeva really sort of just made her hit those extra balls, and it was a really impressive surge to finish, and I think she's playing really well, Andreeva.
Rival podcaster Sam Querry just walked past us, and right on cue, someone's just told us we're the best. Thank you very much, sir.
God, that was sensational.
Wasn't Sam Querry?
No, he did have a good look though. So we'll have Boisson against Andreeva in the quarterfinals in a couple of days' time, and we will have Coco Gauff against Madison Keys.
Can't wait for that.
Gauff beating Alexandrova 6-love 7-5 on Chatrier, and Keys beating Hailey Baptiste 6-3 7-5 on Longlen. Both impressive today.
Yeah, and in two very different sets for Coco Gauff. In particular, we watched the first set of that at the flat, and I mean, I did feel for Alexandrova, who just hasn't been in that many matches like this. I mean, what's the second time she's reached the stage of a Grand Slam, and she looked as though she was completely overwhelmed by the situation when she first went on Chatrier. I mean, it was no games at all in about 10 minutes, and sort of 5-love down.
5-love down, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was dramatic how one-sided it was. And fair play to her, she got herself into it in that second set and looked really dangerous. And I thought she might well win that set. And another example of just what a competitor an athlete Coco Gauff is, because I think most players are losing that set when Alexandrova's hitting the ball like that. So she got the job done in 2 sets. That'll make her feel good. I really enjoyed what I saw of Madison Keys against Hailey Baptiste. I thought that was a good test for Keys, because Baptiste is a stylish player who's got a lot of variety and different. You've got to stay very patient and pull the trigger at the right time. And when I arrived at the court, suddenly she just hit the zone, and to watch her ball from just behind in those press seats of ours, the speed it goes. Sometimes it was going down the middle straight at Baptiste, but it was so fast she just couldn't react and get it back over the net properly. So it's a good win.
Yeah, and Gauff Keys is just such a tantalising prospect to me. They've not met on clay outside of Madrid, so Madrid is so different, isn't it, with the altitude? And it was Keys who won that one in Madrid. It just feels like a lovely clash of styles. Like, we know that. I think to pigeonhole certainly Gauff as a defender would not be fair. She's capable of doing a lot more than that, but her defence is absolutely world class, and Keys' attack is absolutely world class with her big hits on the ground stroke. So those two aspects coming up against each other, I just think is going to be fascinating. I feel like Keys is going to be directing a lot of hard traffic into the Gauff forehand, just like go after that shot, I would have thought. But then Gauff, with her movement and her defence and her grit, I'm sure can cause Keys problems as well. So this Grand Slam 2025 Keys coming up against Gauff, who we know is so great as well, like that is just, I'm really excited about it.
Just hope they both play well, at the same time.
I think they will.
Yeah, that's.
We got a good quarterfinal lineup here.
Yeah, we really have.
It's hilarious, isn't it? We're going to have 7 of the top 15 and the world number 361.
I gotta love it.
It's just great.
Yeah, that is wild, isn't it? I think the lowest ranked woman to reach a quarter-final at a slam since 2017, which actually isn't quite as fun a stat as I thought. 361 in the world, like it's going to have been possibly never have happened before. But I think it enter Kaya Kanepi to ruin a stat.
And she's the 5th woman since 1990 to reach the quarters at her first ever slam.
Wow.
And the last person to do that was Carla Suarez Navarro here in 2008, which I didn't know until Opta told me today.
She's now the Spanish Billie Jean King Cup captain, isn't she?
Yeah.
Lovely stuff.
The last man to have that stat, Aslan Karatsev.
Azanka Flatsev. Folks, that is it for part 2. As we finish part 2, Jannik Sinner is currently 4-all against Andrei Rublev in the third set, and currently my only take from that match is that Marat Safin is not aging brilliantly. So let's go and watch the rest of it so that I can develop some more takes. We'll be back in part 3. Welcome back to part 3 of the Tennis Podcast, where fans are now streaming out of Court Philippe Chatrier. And, well, we didn't finish part 2 all that long ago because Jannik Sinner needed not all that much time to finish off Andrei Rublev 6-1, 6-3, 6-4. He didn't give me much time to have any further takes. David, do you have any?
We've just chatted to a Tennis Podcast listener who said that Jannik Sinner was claiming that they tried to change their games during the match, but he couldn't see any changes to the game of Andrei Rublev in the match. And really, whenever I've seen Rublev throughout his career, it's just not something that he does. I think Jannik Sinner has so much more to his game. He can do everything that Rublev can do and loads more. And that's always been what I've seen when they've played in the past. The bits that I saw tonight, they were fleeting, but I mean, frankly, the match didn't last very long, so most of it was fleeting. And again, Sinner is just so efficient, isn't he? He doesn't have the lapses in matches that Alcaraz has, for instance. And that doesn't mean to say that Alcaraz isn't necessarily the favourite if they end up meeting, but Sinner making his way through this draw, staying fresh, exactly where he wants to be.
Yeah, I think that's my take, really, because if we go back 10 days or so when we were talking about the draw, we were thinking that Jannik Sinner's looked quite tough. You know, I think we'd sort of plotted a path for him that included Alejandro Davidovich Fokina. We plotted a path that included Artifice, and that included Jack Draper. And it's a very Jannik Sinner thing that we've probably overlooked there. Like, you know, he's the reliable one. He's the one who will definitely get there. And all these other guys in his section, okay, I know Fils is unfortunate to have been struck down by injury, but, like, you can't really rely on anyone like you can rely on Jannik Sinner. And he's done his bit in this side of the draw, and he's been absolutely awesome. But the threats that we thought he would have haven't been there. And he's taken care of Lehechka, he's taken care of Rublev, and now he's got Bublik rather than Draper. And look, I know we've just spent an hour and a half, we've just spent parts one talking about how Bublik was the best player in the world for an hour and a half today. But personally, I would be absolutely stunned if Alexander Bublik beat Jannik Sinner. And the level is so high, and it's hard to live with him, and it's reliably high. And yeah, he's, you know, let's not forget, it's only his second tournament back. And I know it wasn't an injury layoff, it was a different type of layoff, but I still am, I think, impressed with how quickly he's back at his top level, it seems. And yeah, like, there's going to be the bigger tests to come for him, because we know that Djokovic and Zverev are in that quarterfinal. If he does beat Bublik, he's going to play one of them. So yeah, like, just incredibly impressive. And
another boost for him is the fact that Alexander Bublik, in his on-court interview after his big win, said, "I've got one more match." He was saying to the crowd, Alex Gretcher was asking him to, you know, don't worry about, you know, let it all out, express your emotion, it's fine to cry. And he said, no, I've got one more match, I can't let it all out. That is, it's not what Jannik Sinner's saying, put it that way. But he was the best player in the world for an hour and a half, so anything
Wouldn't it be fascinating if he found that sort of level against Sinner? I kind of want to see it.
I worry about Chatrier. Just doesn't feel like the sort of place where Bublik will be able to produce that. It just doesn't feel like it'll suit him.
I do know what you mean. There's an intimacy and a feeling of schools out about Lenglen and Mathieu sometimes, as though it's a bit unregulated and anything could happen. Having said all that, Lois Boisson made me think today that anything is possible on Court Philippe Chatrier. So, yeah.
The thing is, Bublik's clearly playing extremely well. Like, over a long period now, he's won a lot of matches on the clay this season. There was a stat in his press conference, wasn't there, that he's won more matches in this one season on clay than he had in his previous 3 clay court seasons put together. I have to think that he will find some kind of inspirational form in the match. But the thing that I'm not confident about is that he'll be able to sustain it against Sinner in the way he's been able to sustain it against de Minaur and Draper. Also, Sinner has an incredible way of just taking the sting out of a atmosphere of a match, of an occasion, because he's just...
You're calling him a buzzkill?
I'm calling him so good that he doesn't allow the opponent to do the fun things that they might be able to do. I know, like, Mute here last year started it, didn't he, for 5 games? But then, like, as soon as Sinner shut that thing down, we never got Mute in the match again. Like, I just think something like that might happen. Like, Sinner's too good, I think, for Bublik to play that way against over 5 sets.
Yeah.
And also, Bublik knows that as well. You know, they played that match in Miami when Bublik said to him at the net, "You're not human." Like, Bublik is the most aware of Sinner's incredible levels.
It's not sounding great for Bublik right now, having spent one part of the show massively bigging him up. We're now tearing him down in the space of this same show, but I don't disagree with anything you are saying. Those quarterfinals will be in 2 days' time. What do we got for you tomorrow? Well, we start with the women, of course, on Chatrier, 11 a.m. Aryna Sabalenka against Zheng Qinwen. No emphasis excitement ratings for today.
Maybe they're overexcited.
They've gone. Just as I got into them, they've gone. Svitolina against Swiatek is second up. Then it is Lorenzo Musetti against Francis Tiafoe. And finally, Tommy Paul against Carlos Alcaraz. How much does the scheduling of that match at night change your view on how it'll play out?
I think it gives Tommy Paul a better chance. I do.
How much of a better chance? How much of a chance? Pam gave percentages, David.
I would have thought that match is 85-15 in the heat of the afternoon. And I think it's more like 70-30 at night. That'd be my feel. I mean, I just think, look, Tommy Paul is just really good in virtually every department. I think he does have one wing that is stronger than the other, but he's capable of moving with Alcaraz for the majority. He serves well enough. He's just a fantastic athlete. He's a great competitor these days. Alcaraz is going to need to be on it. That is the bottom line. If Alcaraz plays near enough to his level, he will win. If he doesn't, he could find himself in a really tough night.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, the night session definitely puts a different spin on this, for sure. The thing is, I've not been that impressed with Paul's level this tournament.
We've thought he's injured since round 1.
Right, and I know he then beat Popper in easily, and I know he talked about the fact that he said, like, you guys, talking about the media, like, you guys overrate, I think, how hard it is for me to bounce back from 5 sets. He said, it's not actually that big a deal for me, playing 5 sets, having a day off, playing another 5-setter. Like, he didn't seem that bothered about it physically, but, like, the fact that he went 5 sets with Martin Fucsovics, he wasn't very good in the first round against Moller. He needed 5 sets against Hachinol. I just don't know whether Paul is at his best right now, to be honest. So the night session definitely concerns me for Alcaraz, but I'm not sure Paul's in his absolute best form either. So I am definitely, not a shocking conclusion to this bit of analysis, definitely taking Alcaraz to win that one.
He said he's only getting 6 hours sleep, 6 hours of broken sleep a night while he's here, and he usually gets 9. It's relatable stuff from Tommy Paul. I mean, nobody in this whole city is sleeping well at the moment, are they, because of all the honking? Two straight nights of relentless honking.
There was a moment in Djokovic's press conference where he told a story about how there was a point on Saturday night when they were thinking about not going back to the hotel.
It's been really edgy.
Because they couldn't...
It's been really edgy.
Because it might have been dangerous.
Yeah, they were
a lot of problems
really concerned with the security, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, people died on that night, and there were hundreds of arrests, despite the fact that Paris Saint-Germain won. I mean, it has been edgy. Even walking home, just in our area, was a bit tense last night. So many
men hanging out of car windows, which is not something I was expecting. Okay. That's tomorrow. On Longlen, it's doubles. There's legends on there tomorrow. So there's still stuff. If you are coming and you don't have a ticket for Chatrier, you'll still have a good time. But the Omelette is closed in terms of singles.
Annette Contivate is playing the legends.
How old is she?
Yeah, that really...
Late 20s?
It made me a bit sad, actually, when I read that in the press release.
I find that quite tough.
Cool. Yeah. That is sad.
Okay, well, on that sad note, our mascot for today's show, or mascots rather, this is a treat, folks. We have Lucy and Millie. Since her first appearance in May 2024 as an episode mascot, Lucy, who we know, 7-year-old boxer dog, welcomed or perhaps has learned to tolerate and ultimately love her new feline sister, Millie. Millie is a 1-year-old medium-haired tabby rescued from a shelter close to her home in suburban Chicago, where she lives with Ted and family. Lucy loves to take long walks through town with Ted while he listens to the tennis podcast. She did not, however, seem to understand when Ted excitedly informed Lucy in September that he had met Catherine on the middle Monday of the 2024 US Open. Oh, that's so nice. Millie, for her part, enjoys exploring every inch, cupboard, box and bag in her new home, as well as sneaking up on her canine sister when Lucy least expects it. They're an amusing pair whose relationship brings considerable laughter and joy to the household. And I've got an incredible picture here of Lucy and Millie together, where unexpectedly Lucy looks less into it than Millie. I would say usually it's the cat that is less into things than the dog, but in this one the cat is actually posing very nicely, and it's Lucy the dog who looks like she might be there under some duress. But it's lovely, Ted, to hear that they are friends, and that is my favourite thing, inter-animal friendship. So, Ted, thank you very much. Hope to see you again at this year's US Open, and thank you for bringing back Lucy and bringing in Millie. We, of course, have our mascots, Phoebe, Maisie and Roger. Hello to you all. Hello to our top folks and executive producers, Greg, Chris and Jeff. And Matt, we have some shout-outs.
We have Hazel Thomas from Fort Worth, Texas.
Hi, Hazel.
Former home of the WTA Finals, of course.
That's right.
And Hazel is a graduate of Texas Christian University, the same university where Cameron Norrie and Jacob Fernley
who played one another a couple of days ago. Obviously, Norrie won and ended up playing today against Djokovic. But an incredible triumph for that university to have two players facing off in the round of 32 at a Grand Slam. Incredible. I'll assume Hazel is good at tennis, because obviously I assume everyone that's been to that university is good at tennis. Based on a sample size of 2.
We've also got Rachel Kirby.
Hello, Rachel.
Hi, Rachel.
Rachel is from Battle in East Sussex.
Rachel, like Rachel McQuillan.
It's always McQuillan, isn't it?
Yes, and it's always gonna be until somebody else comes up with a better one.
I love that there's a place called Battle. There's Hastings and there's Battle.
Yes, and Rachel says Catherine guessed correctly last time. Battle is the site of the Battle of Hastings.
Oh, I've done this material. Matt always waits for me to stitch myself up for revealing this.
Which is so fun.
I wasn't going to bring it up,
Recycled
but then you
material.
did bring it up, so...
Well, David did Rachel McQuillan again.
Yeah.
But he admitted that he'd done it again.
All right, thanks, Rachel. Thanks, Rachel.
And Rachel says, thank you for keeping me company on my long runs as I trained for the Paris Marathon this year.
You're very welcome.
I had an ex-boyfriend that ran the Paris Marathon in a full tracksuit in 32 degrees.
Why?
It was such unattractive finish line photos. Well, he was a bit of an idiot.
All reasons why he's ex.
It was a long time ago. Thank you, Rachel.
And finally, we have Alex Pressedern.
Oh,
all right, Alex.
Teach Trez.
Indeed.
This is Matt's tennis coach.
Alex says one half of the self-proclaimed Merck twins after our selfies with Alcaraz and Krejcikova at Wimbledon in recent years, but more recently, and perhaps more notably, tasked with coaching Matt and attempting to rediscover his backhand. Initial results are promising. Pam Shriver, watch out. He's called out Pam.
Pam is not taking this well right now, I'm telling you. You're going to get a message in a minute.
I can't wait.
Alex, you have found the Roberts backhand, and for that, well, Matt potentially owes you everything, despite the fact that he's not paying you for your coaching services.
I have offered. And, yeah, I would like to extend this shout-out to not only Alex, but also Luke and Dan.
Lukey and the lads.
Yeah, we make a doubles foursome. It's been very nice that they've welcomed me into their friendship group, and it's been a great thing playing with them this year.
Lovely stuff. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Hazel. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you to all of our friends of the Tennis Podcast. It's been a great day. Thank you, Lois Boisson and Alexander Bublik. We will be back to rerun the fun tomorrow. We, of course, are part of the Athletic Podcast Network, available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. Thanks for listening. We'll speak to you tomorrow.